If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available. Okay, so as usual, we're going to be starting off with your best features. And your first best feature is equal facial thirds. So if we imagined there were lines down the side of your face, it's pretty clear to see that you have equal facial thirds. There's no narrowing going on, which is a masculine look, and it's similar to the ideal that we have over here. You also have a long ramus, so if we check your side profiles, it's clear to see that your ramus has some length to it. It's similar to the ideal that we have over here, maybe not quite as long, but it has got some length and it's definitely a positive. Next, you also have a good chin projection, so there's clear to see that you've got a forwardly projected chin. It's similar to the ideal that we have over here, and it's another one of your strengths. And lastly, you also have a compact midface. So if we were to imagine that there was a distance measured between your eyes and your upper lip, and the distance between your eyes, it's clear to see that it would be roughly a 1-to-1 ratio, which is the ideal, because if you have longer than that, then it ends up looking, your face is too long. So you don't want that, and it's better to have this ideal 1-to-1 ratio between your eyes and your upper lip. That is what gives a compact mid-face, and that is scientifically the most attractive. And now getting into your flaws, and your first flaw, well, this is like there's 3 in 1, because these first 3 flaws are pretty much all linked together. The first flaw you have is you have large eye orbits. So the bone that's surrounding your eye, it's just a little bit too big and there's too much space there. And as a result, that is also related to you having low set cheekbones. So because your eye orbits are too large and your cheekbones are low set, then that is, the second flaw that's also there. And finally, it is causing eye bags. So the 2 previous flaws, because your cheekbones are low set and because you have these large eye orbits, your eyes don't have the support that they need. So there's nothing like pushing the bone upwards to, reduce the chance that you have this sagging, that you have this droopy look, the eye bags that are falling. And yeah, so these first 3 flaws are kind of all linked together. And I would say your eye area is your weakest feature. And that's why the first few flaws are all to do with the eyes. And the next flaw related to your eyes is that you also have slightly curved lower lids, almost causing scleral show. Scleral show is where the whiteness beneath your eye is visible, and yours isn't quite visible, but it's still a little bit too droopy, which is why your eyes look droopy in a lot of these photos. And it could be worse, but it's still a flaw, and it's quite high up on the list. And the next flaw that you have is you also have upper eyelid exposure. So if we look at this flawed example here, another reason why your eyes look droopy is because when you have upper eyelid exposure like this, it makes your eyes look more like prey. Whereas from the ideal, you would want a hooded eye, which makes your eyes look more like a hunter. So going through your photos, it's clear to see that there is this upper eyelid exposure visible, which is, again, making your eyes look droopy. The next flaw is that you also have a large eye to eyebrow length. So the distance between your eyes and your eyebrows is too long. It's more similar to this flawed example, whereas in the ideal you would want low set eyebrows which are very close to your eye. This is a more attractive feature that you can have. And finally, the last flaw to do with your eyebrows is that you have quite an N shape. And I wouldn't say it's quite as bad as this, but I think they could be flatter. They could have a better shape to them. And I think it would be an improvement if you had a more flattened curve. That's the ideal shape that you can have for your eyebrows. And one other flaw, which I'm not 100% sure if it's the case, but it seems in some of these pictures that you seem to have a bit of a monobrow. Maybe you've tried plucking it. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's something that you'd want to keep on track of. So just in case that there is too many hairs growing there, then you'd want to make sure that they're removed. But I haven't included that in the list because it's not 100% visible. Next, you also have quite a rough skin texture. So your skin, it's not as clear as it could be. Like, it looks like there, might be some kind of issue, and that's why I'd recommend that it'd be a good idea to start skincare if you aren't doing it already, because it just leads to your skin being improved over time. And skincare isn't as complicated as people would think, because you can implement a routine pretty easily by buying a face wash, buying a moisturizer, and buying an SPF, because SPF is really important, especially if you're going out in the sun, to make sure that your skin ages gracefully. But all of these things will not only improve the quality of your skin, but they'll reduce the aging. And aging is one of the biggest killers for looks that creeps up on people over time. And the difference between having it going 50% slower can often be decided by just having a good skincare routine. And you can get all of these things for $20 a month. Like, it's very affordable. So it's a no-brainer to do it, just to increase the longevity that you have. But I think this will give immediate results for you as well, in the regard that it will make your skin clearer, because at the moment it just looks a little bit too rough for my liking. Next, you also have an acute gonial angle. So if we look at your side profiles here, we can see it's just too acute. It's more similar to this. The angle is like 105 degrees, whereas the ideal is that you have a steeper angle, which is more like 115. So this is what's making your face have more of like a box shape. Some people might have told you in your past that you have a square head, and that's mainly as a result of because of this acute gonial angle. And this is a structural problem, and there's nothing really you can do about it, but it is a flaw nonetheless, which is why it's on the list. Next, you also have rounded cheeks. So going through some of these photos, I don't think that it's a body fat percent issue that much, to be honest, because looking at this picture, you look like you're quite thin. Okay, you're wearing a shirt. It's hard to tell if you would be skinny fat underneath, but it doesn't look like it to me, honestly. It looks like you just genetically unlucky, because some people naturally have rounder cheeks, even if they are a low body fat percentage. So it's pretty unfortunate, when like it'd be very, very hard to imagine that you could get to this level of cheekbone definition even if you had a very low body fat percentage. So you might just be naturally unlucky with this and you have rounded cheeks. However, if it is a matter of just natural like roundedness, then there is something you can do about that, and that is getting your buccal fat removed. So you might want to consider this, do some research into it, see if it would be a good idea for you. Next, you also have a thin neck, and it would be better if it was thicker. It would make your head, your overall presence more masculine, because even just going into some of your body right now, like it's too small. You have too small of a frame. Your neck is too thin. You just need some more volume in general, and that's related to the fact that you're 55 kg at 5'7". It needs to be higher. So if you start adding all mass to your upper body, including your neck, it will make you more attractive. And there is a good thing that there is a solution for that, which is neck training. So I definitely do some research into this. Get yourself on some neck training, and we'll get into gym maxing a little bit later. Next, you also have thin lips. So going through some of these pictures, it's clear to see that your lips are on the thinner side. It would be better if they were thicker. You also have a curved hairline. It's not a major problem, but it would be better if it was straighter. At the moment, yours is too similar to the bottom example I have shown here. You also have a possible overbite. I'm not 100% sure if you do, but just looking at your side profile, even when your mouth is closed, it seems that you might have a slight overbite, but I'm not 100% sure. And finally, your hyoid skin is a little bit too loose. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as this example, say. And as I said, it's because I think that your body fat percentage is reasonably low. It's nowhere near as high as either of these two guys. However, again, there is genetic aspects to this. So when it comes to loose hyoid skin, even though it is mostly in environmental, it depends on your body fat percentage, there is still a genetic role at play. And it seems that you've just naturally got unlucky with this, that your hyoid skin is drooping down more than it should be. Next, now getting on to the Looksmaxxing advice. So how can we improve your score? The first thing I would do is I would get shorter hair on the sides. So I don't like your haircut at the moment. I think that it looks quite messy. It looks quite unkempt. It doesn't look like you've put much effort into it whatsoever. So I think that this would just be an easy way to make you more attractive, just by getting your hair a bit shorter on the sides. Next, I'd also consider growing a beard, because there's a lot of flaws related to your jawline, such as the acute gonial angle, is your gonian isn't steep enough, your loose hyoid skin. So I think if you grow a beard, you're able to hide some of these flaws. It may even make your neck look a bit thicker as well. So I would do this. I would grow a beard if you can. Maybe you can't at the moment because of your age, but you can use minoxidil to try and grow it out a bit more, and I think it would hide some of your flaws in your jaw. Next, height maxing. You're only 5'7", which is a below average height, so we want to increase that a little bit. And you can do that by just wearing shoes that add 1 to 2 inches of height, and that's all you need to get up to an average height. Like in the UK, which is where you're from, the average height is 5'9", 5'10", maybe for Zoomers it's a little bit more, 5'11", but there's not that big of a difference if we bring you up to 5'9" compared to 5'11". So height maxing is a no-brainer. It's low-hanging fruit. It's an easy way to increase your attractiveness. Next, gym maxing. I think this will be a big one for you because you are too thin at the moment. You have a small frame, and I've already spoken about this, so you definitely want to incorporate resistance training, start bulking, putting on some weight, and if you get up to the 65 kg range, put on 10 kilos. It's going to take a while, but I think that this is what you should be working towards to make yourself more attractive. As a temporary measure, I would consider wearing a structured jacket because at the moment it looks like you've got like downward sloping shoulders, which isn't as masculine, it's not as attractive. And if you're able to wear some more supportive clothes, yes, it's a frauding mechanism, but it's better than nothing for the time being. And, you can gym max later on to get to the non-fraud maxed version of having a bigger frame. And finally, I think that your face still has some development to go because, the buccal fat removal, the buccal fat that I mentioned, maybe that's just because you've still got a lot of collagen in your face. Maybe you're a late bloomer, and I think that as you get older, then your face is going to become leaner and it's going to improve. So I think that just naturally growing older, most guys tend to look better into their mid-20s. So you've still got some time to develop, I think. And now, incorporating all of the strengths and all of the flaws, getting to your final rating, I have given you a 3 out of 10, which is unattractive. So here's some examples of guys that will be on a similar looks level to you. And finally, getting to what your rating means. So it means that you score pretty much in the bottom 10% of men. You didn't score the lowest rating. The lowest rating is a 2, which is the bottom 1%. But you scored in between the 99% and the 90%. So 90% scored a higher score than you, 9% scored the same score as you, and 1% scored lower than you. And to be completely honest, you are in a pretty tough position because I think you're below average looking, and you're in a very hard country, the UK, which, I've said a lot of times before, is a rigged market, and you're below average height as well. So, it's definitely a difficult situation, but I think there is room for improvement. And, when you implement the Looksmaxx Advice, there's always benefits to be gained from that. There's always going to be, ways that you can be treated better. So even if we just bring up your score from a 3 to a 4, say, then it's going to lead to big improvements in your life, in the way people treat you. Because when you're too unattractive, then the treatment you get is objectively worse. If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available.